All right. So, Adam, welcome back to the New York Flute Club. I understand that you are actually a New Yorker. Where were you born?
Through and through, I am a New Yorker. Yes, indeed. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. That is home.
And how long did you live in New York the first time?
Ooh, okay, let's see. Until I was nine. Until I was nine, and then my family moved to Germany because my father uh, was in the military for 24 years. So I left Brooklyn to move to Bad Kreuznach, Germany. And from then on, that's when the music and all the good stuff just started happening to me.
So, what got you interested in music and what got you interested in the flute?
That's such a good question. All right, so when I moved to Germany, I was 9 years old. I horrible in school. I wasn't doing great because when I was in Brooklyn, school wasn't great either back then. So I went to a whole different system and I wasn't able to kind of keep up with what was happening. So I was kind of on the cusp of having to be left back, could do that great again. But I was able to push through. And then when I was in sixth grade, they asked me if I wanted to do, well, I had to do some type of extracurricular. So I went on to do choir because I loved singing. I love singing now. I still do it in the shower all the time. Every Thursday is karaoke night at the closest spot to where I live. So I go almost every Thursday. So I love singing. And back then, I thought I was the next. I mean, I don't know, Luther Vandross. I thought I was be the next big one. Um, but I had a friend that was in music, and I thought maybe I can switch because it was a little bit boring for me. So I went on to do band, and I went on to play trumpet. Now, trumpet was a very different experience. It wasn't quite my personality, let's just say that. And I had a good friend who played the flute, and she would never remember her locker combination, so she would put her flute with my trumpet locker and she would never practice. So I would take her flute home with me and I would practice it on weekends until one day, Nancy, I was running late to school and I had to quickly put the flute in the locker because we had band that morning, but I also had practiced it that morning. So she took it out and said, "Why is my flute moist? Why is it wet?" I was like, "I don't know, baby. I don't know." So that was my little stint with the flute, and I loved this. Next year, I switched, and it was a perfect match for my personality and for maybe I always like doing things different, and it was very different to have a boy play the flute. Maybe not so different in Europe, but because I went to a school that was international, a lot of the students were American students. It was rare to see a boy play the flute, but I love that. I love that type of challenge. So that was how I started.
And so then you took up private lessons soon after that?
I did. I did. I took up private lessons with Amy Pashby, who her husband was in the military band, and she taught flute at home. I think she also taught piano as well. And we still keep in contact till today. And she saw something in me, and she pushed me. I remember one of the first pieces I played was Telemann's Fantasy, the 12th one. And as a 13-year-old, that's kind of a big deal. And so she pushed me there, and we also played a couple other amazing pieces. I can't remember right now. That was just it was a lot. It was hard, but I loved the challenge. And then I moved towns. I moved to Wiesbaden, and from Wiesbaden, that's when I started working with Eric Lamb. Eric Lamb, amazing, amazing flute player. And then through Eric Lamb, he had came back to the US to do some touring and other stuff. So he was in the US back for a while. And then I went on to work with his teacher, which is Thaddeus Watson, the amazing Thaddeus Watson. So for me, I loved the flute. The flute was everything to me. Some of my idols was, of course, William Bennett and James Galway, Paula Robeson and Ron Paul, and used to have their pictures on my binder in high school. And my friends would say, "Who are these white people? Who are these people on your binder?" And I said, "What you mean? You don't know who's Ron Paul?" Um, so that it was amazing for me to be able to work with these two Black flute players who not only looked like me, but they represented something that I wanted for myself. So I was glad that I had that from a very early age. And they, oh man, they whipped me in shape. They whipped me in shape. And because of Eric and because of Thaddeus, I had a chance to work with William Bennett in England. Now, I was 15 years old, traveling by myself from Germany to England. And that was an experience I will never forget. And his amazing wife, who, gosh, just kind of took me under her wing and just kind of showed me the ropes of everything. That was a phenomenal experience that I will never, ever, ever forget.
So did you study with Wib in the summer, or did you go regularly back and forth from
So it
Germany?
was in the summer, and that was the same summer that I met the amazing Doris Saris, a Hungarian flute player, and I was mesmerized by her playing. And I was also mesmerized by this young Russian boy in his late teens whom I didn't understand how anyone can play the flute like that. Do you know who I'm talking
I'm going to guess, but you tell me.
about? Dennis. Dennis
Barakov.
Barakov. He was, and mind you, I was 15. I think he must have been like 20, 19, 20, around there. And that was the year he played, I think it was a violin concerto. I think it was the Mendelssohn violin concerto or it was Tchaikovsky. One of those two he played. And I've heard and I've loved both of those pieces, but I've never heard it on the flute before. And it blew everyone's mind, everyone. So even back then, he was a superstar. So to have those experiences under my belt really shaped who I am now as a flute player and how I also teach my students today.
And what was it specifically about those teachers that you learned besides the basics?
Well, I would say to be comfortable with who I am as a musician, but also to work hard. Without a doubt, that you have to work hard. And the other thing is, when I was working with Eric, he didn't let anything slide. He didn't let anything slide. You know, when you're in your teens and as a boy, you kind of just, you know, do what you got to do or just do kind of just enough. But no, no, he wanted me to pay attention to the details in every single note. And you have to hear every single note. So he whipped me in shape there. Thaddeus whipped me in greater shape. Um, he didn't take he didn't take any crap. Let's just say he didn't take anything. But and what I loved about him is he didn't charge me for my lessons. He didn't charge me a dime. He said, just come in every week prepared. And I would bring in a little German dessert for him, and he'll eat up. He'll just, okay, let's start with your tap on bear. Okay, I'm ready. Good, good. And sometimes, just between you and me, Nancy, if I didn't practice enough, and I know I didn't, I'll bring in like three desserts, maybe four, depending, so that when he's eating, he wouldn't listen as intently and closely. Oh,
Did
but
that
no,
work? Didn't work.
no, 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 it didn't work. Quite frankly, it backfired.
So you came back to the States after that. Tell me
Yes.
what happens next.
So I wanted to continue to study with him, but there were protocols and tests and things I would have to take as a non-German citizen. And the hour was already kind of late for me to kind of figure out what those next steps are going to be. So it was going to be easier for me just to go back to the US and study. Um, and there were a lot of options, right? There was a lot of options. However, I didn't understand the process of it, of getting into a music school. And Thaddeus, I was a student of his, but I wasn't a college student of his. So he gave me a lot of attention. I mean, sometimes my lessons were 3 hours. Sometimes I had lessons twice a week. And for me, coming from Wiesbaden to Frankfurt, it's like an hour and a half train ride. But I was always happy and excited to go. Um, so we will have these long lessons and such. But I did feel like getting into college was a whole different ballgame. And he helped me as much as he could, but he had his own things going on. So I didn't get into any colleges, any schools I applied to the first round. I didn't get into any of them, and that was that hurt. That hurt. I wasn't validated as a musician, as a flute player. Um, so I took a gap year and I worked, Nancy. I worked. I was a uh, cashier at the local grocery store while I continued my lessons and figure out what my next steps were going to be. So I worked my butt off that year, and I knew what I had to do. I had to go back to the U.S. and do live auditions. My parents didn't have a lot of money. They were not going to do that the first round, so I had to figure out how to do recordings and as such. But I knew I was going to have to find the money and get my butt down to those schools. And from then, that was when the opportunities came in. That was when my mind was open. That was when I met Tara, and I had auditioned for her at SUNY Purchase, and she said, "I want you. I want you here. What do we have to do to get you here?" And that was the 4 year studying with her, and that was really a remarkable time because I was coming into my own and I was understanding the bigger scope of the industry. And my mind was so small and focused on Europe for such a long time that America has its own set of standards for classical musicians. Um, and she taught me a lot there. And being in New York was amazing. Being back in New York was amazing, and I got to see a lot of amazing shows and all that bits. I made a lot of close friends, and then that was when I met you, Nancy. I met you right after I graduated from SUNY Purchase. I went to study with Paula Robeson at NEC, and then that was when I did a New York Flute competition. And you, if I remember correctly, you were the president at that time.
Probably it was 2009 that you won. So Tara helped you prepare for that. Yes?
That Paula did.
Paula did.
Paula
Okay.
did.
So tell me
And
what inspired you to enter that competition?
well, it was a nice amount of money for for a struggling college student.
Mhm.
And at the time, a lot of people were doing competitions, and I've always been a competitive flute player, so I've always done competitions. It made sense that it was time for me to do it then, and the final judge was Harold Jones
I
for
did
that,
not remember that. All right.
and that was
Small
when I
world.
first met Mr. Jones, and from then on, it was clear to me what I needed to do because for a bit I didn't feel like I had a place in classical music, especially as a brown person. I didn't feel like I had a place. I feel like I was a caricature, like I was put in a bubble. Even back then, because I just wasn't seeing a lot of people. So your mind starts to kind of, think, well, there's no place for you. You don't see a lot of people who look like you, so there is no place for you. Um, so when I met him after the competition, two amazing things happened that day. We spoke, and I told him, Mr. Jones, I've known so much about you. I studied with Thaddeus Watson. I studied with Eric Lamb, two Black flute players in Germany. Um, I'm a little bit scared of my future. because I want to focus on being a soloist, but I feel like I won't be taken seriously on all these different things. And the one thing that I remember from that conversation was like, boy, you just go and you do it. You just do. He said, there's a place for you here. There's a place for you here, absolutely. He said, if you continue to play the way that you played this afternoon, that final round, oh, there's a place for you. So that was incredible. Also, what happened that same day, Nancy, I got a call from Allison Loggins. That was back then when she was working for the Flute Center. And she studied with Tara as well. And so we overlapped, I think, a year or two, maybe just 1 year at Purchase. Mm-hmm. And she said, so James Galway was in the audience, and he heard you play, and he wants you to study with him in Switzerland. And is it okay if I pass along your number to him? And I was like, absolutely. Absolutely. So I went back to school, and then I went back to school, and then I ended up calling. He called me, and then we spoke, and it was beautiful. And my family was still living in Germany at the time, so I was in in Boston, but they were still in Germany. So it was easy for me to get from Germany to Switzerland, just a train right away. So that was when I worked with Sir James and his wonderful wife, and I met some amazing, amazing international flute players there at the Academy.
And what did you learn from him that was different from what you learned from Tara and from Paula? Let's hear how those three what each contributed.
So Tara was opening my eyes to the professional world of music, because for a long time it was just me, my flute, studying this and that. But now when you go to college, and studying, focusing on this, you wanted to make this as a profession. And here's what you need to do. Here's what you don't do. Here's what you do, and all that bits. And then with Paula, it's the musicality. She opened up colors in my flute playing that I didn't know I could produce. But through that, she taught me to read, learn, read and learn history or whatever pieces you're playing, gather inspiration. And through that, I'm going to teach you how to create colors and imagery and to tell a story in that. Sir James was a businessman. He said it is 100% a business, 100% a business. The first day of the masterclass, he said, I want you all to know I am no more talented than any of you. I am not any more talented than any of you, okay? This is a business. So he talked to me one-on-one at a dinner. We went to dinner, and I just asked him different questions. And he gave me some amazing pointers. You can't wait for it to come to you. And so many of us, especially in collegiate level, you just think you're going to practice in the practice room 4, 5, 6 hours a day, and your phone's going to ring just because you're doing all these hours of practicing. You're committed. But if no one knows who you are, you're going to put yourself out there, you can't get any opportunities. So he taught me about, don't think too much. Just put yourself out there. Just put yourself out there. Not everyone's going to like it. Okay, not everyone's gonna like your sound. Not everyone's gonna like, people think you play too slow, you play too fast, your tongue is too heavy, this and that, your vibrato is too heavy, whatever it is. You've got to put yourself out there. Because if you just put yourself in a practice room, that's not gonna do any good for anyone. That's what I learned.
So one of the things you got out of our competition was that you met Galway. You've done a lot of other competitions too. What do you think you get out of the competitions overall?
Oh, endurance. Endurance, and it's a psychological game. First and foremost, it is psychological. And if you can beat the psychological part, you set yourself up for success. Because so many things happen, Nancy, as I'm sure you know, your nerves. The right side of your brain is telling you you can't. The left side is telling you you can. It's this back and forth. Your body is doing all type of things. So you have to know yourself. You have to know yourself and know what it means when you start spiraling. You have to stop it. You got to stop it early, sooner than later. You have to know what happens when you get nervous. Some of us get cotton mouth, some of us trembling vibrato, some of us sweaty palms, whatever it is that can affect, how we hold the flute. And it just takes going through those experiences for me to know what I can do. And then when I do it, I want more. Musicians are adrenaline junkies. We might not want to jump out of airplanes, okay? But we are adrenaline junkies. And we need that because honestly, Nancy, when I feel the most alive as a human being, it's when I'm on that stage and I am scared. I am nervous. It's when I feel the most alive. It's when I feel like a human being because everyone can see me. Everyone isn't like that, okay? That it's very scary. Not everyone likes that. But I realize that for me, I need that. I need it.
So does that make you favor a solo career or an orchestral career or a combination? What?
It is a combination. It is a combination. Here's what I've been learning. You need money to live, right? You have these hopes and these dreams and these things that you want to do. But within that, you also have to sustain yourself. And that is the reality that schools don't prepare you for. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think maybe now things might be different. There might be more courses now that you can take that's career driven and what to do after school. But for me, there wasn't a lot of that. So, and I think still today, you still have to figure it out on your own what it is that you want. What is it that's going to sustain you and that's going to move you. Now, for me, let me know if I'm jumping the gun here, but for me, I've always loved teaching. It's always been a huge part of me. I love playing the flute till today. Don't love anything as much as I love my flute. Hands down, hands down. Okay, it hasn't always been great, right? It hasn't always been great, but I still come back to it and I still get the exact same feelings from when I was 13 years old. No lie, 100%. The third thing, which is the newest part of my professional career, is radio. I've always hated my voice. I never thought that this would be something that I could make money. I had no idea I could make money doing this. But at the same time, it makes sense because I love connecting. I love connecting with people. I love storytelling. I love learning from people. I love talking to people. I love asking questions. So it makes sense that that is a part of my wheelhouse. But it took other people to say, I think you should try this. Try it. And I didn't say no. Sometimes it's good to not say no. Sometimes you just got to know what it is for yourself. Sometimes it's good to say no, sometimes it's not. But I thought, radio, it took me forever. Once I did my first segment with All Classical Radio here in Portland, it took me months before I listened to my first segment. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But once I did, I said, oh, wow, there is something here. There is something here.
What is your gig in Portland? Is it a regular show?
I do have a regular show. It's called On Deck with young musicians. So I interview young musicians in the area, ask them lots of different questions. Basically, what you're doing to me is what I do with them. And it's amazing. So I do that, yes.
Very good. So you got done with your master's with Paula, you studied with Galway, and then somewhere along the line you ended up in the Portland Symphony. What happened? How did that happen? There's something in between?
Well,
Perhaps an audition?
There were a lot of different things. In terms of professionally speaking, once I got out of school, no one was calling me. I wasn't receiving any emails about opportunities. Nothing was coming up. And I had won these different competitions, and I won a competition for in NEC, and I worked with some amazing international superstars at NEC. But nothing was connecting. No one was calling me for anything. So, which is very common, very, very common even today. So I was depressed. I couldn't figure out how to make money. I had six figures in student loan debt. Okay. That's when the reality kicks in. This is like you can't just dream, you got to figure out how to live. Um, but I knew that education was a huge part of who I was. So that was the easiest route to start making money, was to get an education. So that was what I did for a long time. Um, I worked for a wonderful music program. It was Elsa STEM inspired program out in Boston, and it's Conservatory Lab Charter School. And I was one of the first group of teachers to start music at this school, and it was amazing. That was a really wonderful experience for me as an educator. So when I was doing that, I wasn't performing as much. I had a couple of opportunities, but not a whole lot, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I didn't know what needed to be done. There was no manual on what the next steps are. Um, so then I was in Boston for about 7 years. An opportunity came about to move out here to start another Elsa STEM and music program. We start the Winds and Brass program. Since I've been doing it for a while, I was already experiencing that. And I knew that moving would be a good opportunity for me and to start something new, and especially help with my solo career. So I moved out here, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. And through here, because I was an adult and I knew how to make money. Okay, let's talk about that. I knew how to make money at that point. So at this point, I was in my late 20s, and I said that I need to devote all of this stuff that I'm devoting to people and all these experiences that I'm giving to them. Let's turn that around to myself just a little bit, just a little bit. All this grant writing that I was good at for other organizations, let's turn that around on me. All this, you know, uh, meetings I am holding with these multimillionaires to give to our organizations, how can I channel that for myself? Education was great and it was going fantastic, but there was a gap. And the gap was in the solo part. So once I realized that, Adam, you have so much experience, use that for yourself. Use it for yourself. So that's when I started getting putting together my a nice CV package, putting together all these different type of things for myself and sending it out, setting it out. Sometimes I didn't hear from them. Sometimes I got a no. When I got a yes, that was the end. Make connections with conductors. This is the one thing I tell aspiring flute players and other musicians. Get to know conductors, especially young conductors that you might work with in school and NEC, wherever you go to school. Get to know them, because they might give you an opportunity to play solo in Chicago Symphony. They might, because or whatever the case might be. So that was when I started the door started opening more.
And so how specifically did you get to Portland, and when?
That was 2015. Someone that I used to work with, that was the director of the program in Boston, was friends with the director in the program here in Portland. At the time, they only had a strings program. So David was my old boss in Boston, knows Seth because they went to school together in North Carolina School of the Arts. Seth knew that David is starting El programs and doing that amazing thing there. And Seth got in contact with David and said, hey, we have a strings program. We just finished year one. Things are going great. We want to go and expand into winds.
Mhm.
We know your expertise in this. Would you be interested in starting the winds program?
Mhm.
David knew that I was interested in new opportunities. And he said that he called me up one day and said, Adam, I have a friend out in Portland. He would like to start a WINS program. I want to know if you wanted to co-direct it with me, co-lead it with me. I said, oh my gosh, that'd be great. He said, all right, well, I'll keep in mind, I'm going to go check it out in a couple months and I'll come back to you, let you know how it went. A couple months went by. I was in San Francisco on vacation and he called me up and said, they have their head on straight. It's awesome. They're doing really good things over there. I am not in the place to start another El Sistema program or even a part of a program. It's too much energy, it's too much time. I'm just not in that place. Do you want to start it on your own? So we'll get me in contact with whoever I need to get in contact with and get in contact with Seth. He flew me out to Portland. I spent about 3 days and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with what they were doing. I fell in love with Oregon. And then the rest was history with that.
Mhm. And then you joined the symphony after that.
So, which was a while later. So I was subbing in with the Oregon Symphony, um, and that's been great. That's been a lot of fun. And then I auditioned for the Portland Columbia Symphony, and I won that principal position, and that's been really lovely. And also, I was the artist in residence for All Classical Portland, and that was an opportunity for 2 years. That was amazing.
And
And
that's the
from
radio
that,
station.
that's the radio station. So I was brought on first as the artist in residence. I've done some smaller things, like for instance, they had like a Mozart and Muffins Day, which is people they'll hire musicians to come in and play different Mozart pieces, and it basically was an open house for folks to come look at the radio station, check out the radio station. So they had hit me up, and I said, sure, no problem. And so I've done a couple things like that, and then they wanted me to be the artist in residence, and that basically consisted of performances, writing blog posts, that was being the chair of the Recording Inclusivity Initiative, because I was already performing pieces that was predominantly just for Black composers, Black and Brown composers. And they wanted to do something as well that was, and this is pre-pandemic, that was focused on underrepresented composers. And I said, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm doing and what I want to do. I had no idea. How can we join forces? So with that was with the artist in residence. And then I recorded, well, first of all, we were trying to find pieces, and we had so many submissions. We had people, librarians from all different parts of the country and all around the world. We had people, historians, who was trying to find pieces that have not been recorded so that we can record it by underrepresented composers. And it was an amazing process to be a part of. I loved it. I learned a lot as one of the leaders of that. It was incredible. And I learned about a lot of new composers I haven't even heard of. And I said, we should record Coleridge Taylor Perkinson's Sonata for Flute and Piano. And I said, sure, let's do it. I didn't realize until the night before I was going to record it that it was written by Harold Jones. I didn't know that. It's weird how the things just kind of lined up. So then I was like, oh my God, this was meant to be. Once I recorded that sonata, which was incredible, that last movement is quite tricky, but it was such a fun experience. And from that, I said, I need to do my own recording. I need to do my own recording, because what we're doing in a radio station was incredible. It's not enough. we need more. We need more people. But the purpose of that was so that we come up with a blueprint of how to do this, how to do this initiative, so that radio stations don't have to make an excuse saying, oh, we don't have the money, oh, we don't know how to do this. Here it is. We did
So
all the hard work.
are those CDs out now?
They are out on
Okay.
Spotify, iTunes, all that jazz. So we're basically saying, here's the process. This is how long it'll take for you to do it. This is how much it'll cost. This is how much we budgeted for it through grants and whatever else and all these different things. And so we just gave it to different radio stations. And right now we have a couple that are on the boat to do the exact same thing. So it's awesome.
That's fantastic. So tell us about what you have in mind for the New York Flute Club program. What inspired your repertoire choices, and what are you going to play for us?
I was elated when Jenny asked me. Elated, because it's been way too long. I was so removed from the Flute Club. I went to New York in February. So I went to recital and I introduced myself to Jenny. That's how that opportunity came about. This is perfect because yeah, I am working on multiple projects that surrounding Harold Jones in celebration of Harold Jones. And you and I have talked, Nancy, I don't have to go into the whole thing again, but you and I have had, I need that conversation. I needed that. So he's someone that has shaped my understanding of the career. He's someone that taught me to be fearless, because it wasn't, he was someone that programmed mainly, yes, traditional music, classical music, but he also put in there gospel that he arranged. He also put in there different pieces that is a part of his identity, as a part of his culture. And that takes guts to do that. Yeah, that takes guts. So that's something that I learned from him. So the program is in celebration of Harold Jones. It is a homage to him, and also an opportunity for the audience to get to know me better as an artist. So there are pieces in the program that showcase my authentic self, pieces that inspire me, that allow me to showcase different sides of me, from my warmth and nurturing side to my color and dynamic side, and my fun and my hip side. So the program has a huge emphasis on culture and my identity. My family is Afro-Latino, part of them Afro-Latino. My mother's side of the family is from Panama. So and in being born in Brooklyn, raised in Brooklyn, it's just diverse. It's just so much happening in Brooklyn. So Miguel Astor wrote a piece called Seis Flautas, which I've always loved because it has this joropo style because it's a Venezuelan style, and it reminds me so much of going into Prospect Park and hearing the drummers and the shekere and everyone doing the African beats. When I'm just in Prospect Park, that's what this piece reminds me of. So I put that on the program. Leclerc, I want to showcase my versatility in my playing, my stylistically, how cognizant I am stylistically, and have some different kind of colors and grace and etiquette to my playing. I want to showcase that. Julio Racine is someone who is an amazing man. He's an amazing man and very important to the American classical composers realm. A lot of people don't know who Racine.
I don't. So tell us a little bit about who he is.
So he's a Haitian American composer. I know his daughter. Can't remember her name. She also works with El Sistema programs. I met her at an El Sistema conference years ago, and I didn't realize that was Julio Racine's daughter. And I put the two together, and then once I knew that was her, I contacted her, and we started talking. She said, "My dad would love to hear from you." He's not doing well, and I'm sure that this would boost his spirit. And this was right during the pandemic. I was too nervous to call him. I didn't. He died that next year. So I didn't get the opportunity to talk to him. And that was that fearless thing that I got to remind myself, just do it. Just do it. Just do it. So this piece, Tonshon Tu Yonverlu, is about Haitian voodooism. And it is about community and care and about acknowledging the diversity we have around the world and the care that everyone has for Mother Nature. We might have our understandings of what voodooism is, our stereotypes of what voodooism is, but it's more. It's not even that. It is about caring for the Mother Earth and all that bit. So this piece is a short piece and circles around dance and about the rituals that Yanmalu would have. So it's a beautiful, beautiful short piece. Ulysses K, the prelude for unaccompanied flute. It was written for his dear friend as an exercise. This piece, for me, is quite a challenge for the performer because it allows us to not think linear, and you have to be more imaginative, more colorful, because there's not a whole lot going on. So you have to really think bigger. So that's why I wanted to put that piece on the program. And Tafanel, I love Tafanel. I love Tafanel. This piece reminds me of my youth. And when I said, I will become a professional flute player, this was that piece. And listen to Galway play it, and Yumiko Sakuma, an amazing Japanese flute player, and Eric Lamb and Tara and Harold. This is a piece that brings inspiration to me every time I play it. So I want to bring that into the room for New York Flute Club. David Baker's inspiration, just playing that at the convention was incredible. Was incredible. There's so much, Nancy, I don't know. There's so much that came before me, and I just don't know. So I'm always wanting to learn and to learn and to learn. So learning about David Baker and this piece written for Thomas Ehrlich, who was the president of
IU, yes.
IU, yeah. And I didn't even know that this, and I spoke to.
And why did he write it for Tom? Just because he was the president and he was at Indiana, or was there a?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay,
that's exactly right. I spoke to David. I can't remember David's last name. The black guy. He was also there at the convention. I can't remember his last name. But he was telling me when I was at the Powell booth, and he was telling me, anything about the piece?
Dave Williams.
I don't think
not. No. Okay.
Yeah, David, the black guy. I can't remember his last name right off the top of my head.
Anyway,
but,
doesn't matter.
He knows a lot about the piece, and he was telling me that the piece originally didn't have a title, and he was going through some situations with his family to come to some turmoil that was happening. I think his mother had died or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but something had happened. And he last minute thought that the title was going to be Inspiration. And yeah, who premiered this was Carol Winston. I had no idea. I had no idea. So I learned quite a bit, and this piece is just a beautiful piece. I love pieces that incorporate classical and jazz, to marrying the two. And that's also why I love Carlos Taylor Perkinson's sonata, because it also does that. And this piece does that. Another other piece on the program also does that too.
And then you have a few other little pieces?
Yes, yeah. So Jasmine Barnes is a young Black composer. She's an amazing singer as well. This piece is called Busy. It actually was originally written for soprano saxophone. Soprano
but you've improved it.
Exactly right. And she graciously was happy to do an arrangement for flute. And I said, but it doesn't feel right. Like flute feels a little too light. So I said, would you be open to doing an arrangement for alto flute?
Hmm.
And she said, yes. I love it on alto flute. It sounds so good. So busy, it's simple. It's just about how our life is busy. We have so much going on, so much happening in our daily life. So this piece has a lot of clustered chords on the piano, but it also has jazz element to it as well. So she incorporates all these different elements in a 3-minute piece, and it is awesome. It is fun. The audience will love it. Coleridge Taylor's Suite de Peace. That is a lovely one. Of course, I had to do something that was originally written for violin,
Hmm.
and just to show that we can do it better. It's one of those. It's just sweet. It is sweet, and it gives you an opportunity to think more outside the box again, but have more musical opportunities to, where to play louder or where to have the piano shine more. It's a really beautiful and sweet and delicate piece. And you can't do the things that you want to do in other pieces. Like you have to really be more uh, um, refined in your playing. So your fortes can't be too loud, your pianos can't be too soft either. It has to be in this warmth, always in warmth. And then Andres Carrizo is a Panamanian composer who wrote this piece, Impresiones Panameñas, and it is just covering all the beauty of Panama. And it is what's it? I don't know, how many movies it is. It covers all these different things in Panama, all the different styles, Panamanian styles. And in one movement, it's called Duerme, Duerme Amor, and it is a lullaby that was sung to him as a baby that he now sings to his kids. And it's just a really beautiful, beautiful, and fun piece, rhythmic, um, and it's not so difficult so that anyone can learn. I mean, 80 high schoolers can learn with no problem.
That's great.
It's just a really nice piece, very nice piece, very fun. And then Tujuayo by Daniel Cueto. He is a Peruvian composer, young Peruvian composer. He is also a flute player, a wonderful one at that. And he wrote this piece for solo flute that it's about the national bird of Peru, and it's called Tujuayo. And it is so beautiful. Now, Tujuayo is unique, unique from other birds because they lay their eggs, they breed on the ground, they don't breed in the trees. They uh, uh, go hunting for food at night, not during the day, and they make the most unique sounds, unlike any other bird. So he wrote this piece that is inspired by the tujuayo, the bird, the national bird of Peru. Um, and then a little bit of some Italian drama. I have the Donizetti. I love a little drama. Okay.
Mhm. Drama is good.
I love a little drama. So this piece has all the operatic feels in it that I just love. And Donizetti is one of those composers that knows how to write for the voice, knows how to deliver drama in his storyline. And I remember when I went to Italy years ago and I went to his birthplace, birth home of Bergamo, Italy. It's one of the most stunning places I've ever been to. And they're known for these little desserts. That's called polenta ilse, and it's like polenta and a little bit of some liqueur in it, so it's get your little buzz at the end of you eat it. It's so amazing. So I wanted to do this piece to close, and then the encore, which by Dr. Jeff Dana Hicks. He was a reverend. He's still alive. I don't think he's a reverend anymore. And this piece is a dream. It's called a dream, and it's just to dream big. Dream big. And it's beautiful. It's also
You're giving it away.
oh no.
It's all right. So that's the dessert. I understand that you are quite the baker. Is that true?
I dabble here and there. I dabble a bit. That's something that I've always loved doing. I've always loved it. I've actually made the polenta. It's so much fun to make. I like baking. It's fun. I don't do
What's
it
your
as much
specialty?
anymore. My specialty is, well, first of all, it's you can't find a recipe for the polenta. You can, but it's very hard, and also it's in grams, which a lot of us don't really use
You have to do
cups,
math. Right.
bowls. Yeah,
Right.
exactly right. So you can get it all wrong. And I've done maybe, I can't remember, a lot of different tries, and I have the recipe that I wrote down. So I'm really good at making that amazing Italian dessert. And I'm also, see, my mouth is watering. I make a really good brown sugar bundt cake. It is so good. And every time I go visit my family in Texas, my dad, it's a requirement. Like I can't go there and not make the bundt cake. It is so tender. Oh, it's amazing. It's very good.
All right. So we'll have to have a bake off. My blueberry muffins against your bundt cake.
Hey,
How's that?
I love it. Yes.
Very good. So is there one thing that you would like members of the Flute Club to know about you before they come to hear your wonderful concert?
Get ready to dance.
All right. That
Get
sounds great.
ready to dance and to leave feeling inspired. And that at the end of the day, that is the message. Of course, you want to get all the technical and all that bits down and make sure that you have a presentable package. But at the end of the day, the greats are the greats because they inspire, and they inspire millions. So I want you to leave feeling inspired. I want you to leave feeling I need to go to the flute center to go buy this music. I need to go listen to it again. I need to learn more about Ulysses K, whatever it is.
Very good. Thank you very much.